shall be Mr. Plain John. I would have called him Plain Jane, but out of respect, I'll call him Plain John because he was giving off really feminine energy. So that was already not gonna work for me. He was like kind of like an invisible man. Like he was giving low energy, giving no energy. And essentially he called himself plain and like invisible because he said like because he travels a lot for work. He's in the field of geological mapping, and I really do like men that are in like jobs like that, like civil engineering and something that helps to build upon the landscape and the infrastructure of our united front. So that was actually what kept the conversation intriguing and interesting, because I love when a man has something like scientific and grounded and informational to share with me, because I do love learning. Knowledge is power. And he's basically saying that whenever he travels, he's basically like invisible because he's like a plain Caucasian male. So he's like non-threatening, like no one's really interested in robbing him, nor do they see him as a threat because he's so like blended in with the essence of neutrality. So I'm not being demeaning, I'm literally just explaining based on the information that I gathered. So Plain John it is. So the way in which we met was I was pulling into the property and we were pretty booked that day, so there was only like limited parking. So I had to park in an area that's like right in front of someone's door. I was parking and I parked right in front of his door, which is very awkward. I think that's very inappropriate because like it's like encroaching upon someone's privacy. And that's exactly what I said. Like when he opened the door, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for like encroaching on your privacy, because I wouldn't like that. Like as soon as I open the door, someone's in my face with their car. Are you serious? Whoever designed that property, it needs to be refined, because that's not considerate to individuals. It's not appropriate, and I would not like that. But in any event, I apologized, and as he was talking, I noticed that he had like a southern accent. But I didn't say anything at first, and then he was still like kind of looking around, or like kind of looking towards the office, so I assumed he needed some assistance. So whether I'm in the office or not, I'm like always gauging the needs of others. So I was inquiring as to what he may need, and he said he just needed the Wi-Fi code. And so I offered him the Wi-Fi code, and as he kept talking, I was like his southern accent was getting deeper and deeper. And I was born in the Midwest, but I was raised in the South, but I've been here on the West Coast for almost 2 decades. So I'm like a Midwestern, Southern, Western gal, if you will. But in any event, I miss hearing Southern accents. I never really hear them anymore. So immediately when he was getting deeper into his Southern accent, I was like, oh my God, I miss that accent, because I used to live in Georgia. And then he was like, he's like, it kind of was like, I don't know, he kind of maybe thought I was attracted to him because I'm attracted to his accent. So he was like, oh, a point of attraction is arising. She likes me, she likes me. But I think he was from South Carolina, I think he said. But we were just having small talk, and he was just saying he was here for a spell for work, and he was asking about different attractions in the area and like further out, like towards Los Angeles, like the Griffith Observatory, and just talking about price gouging in Malibu versus other areas in Santa Monica and stuff. So basically I said I could offer you a map if you come to the office later on, because I have to get, start my shift to help other guests check in and manage the property in general. So he was like, okay, sure thing, I'll stop by. I kind of forgot about it. His southern accent was cool, but I was not initially attracted to him. I don't know if I mentioned this, but he was Caucasian in his like mid-30s, and I did have a long-term relationship with a Caucasian male that was in his mid-20s, but I was still like in high school. I've always dated older men. His energy was neutral, so it wasn't like off-putting or anything at first. So I'm like, whatever. Well, he eventually came to the office and was inquiring about the map. I gave him the map, and then we were talking a little bit, and he was asking me if I would like to go get a drink after work, and I was telling him that I don't get off work until like 11:30, which is really late. And plus I have like to drive home, like the drive is like 45 minutes to an hour and 15 depending on traffic, and then I had to get up and come back there tomorrow because I was like working consecutive days. So I was basically telling him that that would not work. And he was like, oh, okay, well, where can I get a drink? I told him he can enjoy a drink on the Malibu pier, but there's not a nightlife in Malibu actually, which you wouldn't think, but I mean, you can go to Nobu and stuff. It's like more refined, but there's not like a bunch of bars like in Santa Monica. So yeah. So he said he was gonna go do that, and I was telling him like places to eat, like pizza places, places to get tacos and things like that. And he didn't offer me anything. Like, he's trying to flirt with me, but he's not offering anything. I thought that was really inappropriate. So I was already not interested. Because if you're interested in someone, like, I think you should be offering something. I don't know. That's just my desire. Like, I love when someone puts their desires into action, is what I'm saying. When I like someone, I'm always listening and putting stuff into action and showing you that I'm attracted to you, I care about you, I like you. Like, when you move forward into the spectrum of actually dating, I'm showing you that I care about you, I'm listening to you, I understand you. So when I initially see that trait in a man and he's like listening to me, or at least inquisitive about my desires and likes, then my attraction can grow. But if you are not inquisitive about me, I don't feel anything. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just another girl to you, and you're just trying to get deep inside without any effort. Anyway, that's not gonna work. He said he's gonna go on his merry way to the pier, and then I thought that was that, just, you know, a one-off interaction. But he ended up coming back, and he ended up just sitting down. Because we were talking and he was standing up, but then he ended up sitting down because he was not stopping talking. Because then he was starting to get a little inquisitive about me. I was talking about my background in forensic psychology and how I ended up here and what I'm doing now. And I was listening to ambient music, and he was like, oh my gosh, I never meet people that also listen to ambient music. And he gave me a suggestion for this person to listen to. I was like, thank you for the suggestion. And then I had something playing in the background. It was like a Lifetime movie. What was it called? Seduced and Betrayed. I was watching it because I was looking at the scenes because I wanted to overlay it on my most recent true crime documentary, and that channel is Vocational Volatility, where I covered the death of a sex therapist by the name of Dr. Amy Harwick, who was murdered by her ex-boyfriend. So I was looking at it for that, but then unfortunately he was like, I think my nail broke or something, and then he came around like behind the desk to pick it up because my nails are always like breaking, especially when I'm doing like a lot. And then he saw that it was like they were like kissing or something. He was like, oh, is that a sex scene? Are you watching like smut? And I'm like, what is smut? I never heard of smut, so I didn't know, like, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with something like subtly sexual or like borderline pornography. I'm not sure. So I was like, no, that's not what this is. I'm watching like a psychological thriller, and it just happens to be that scene. I was trying to fast forward it because I don't need to be watching that in front of, like, you know, the job is very laid back when there's nothing going on. Like, no one's really coming in constantly. And if someone's coming in, I would turn it off. But it was just him in there, and it was a slower day a shift towards the evening, and I had it on silent, wasn't playing out loud. So I was like, yeah, I was trying to fast forward it, and he was like, oh my gosh, I will pause it. I'm like, congratulations. Like, okay, cool, I'm trying to fast forward it. I don't need to really watch that because I don't watch pornography. I prefer the real thing over watching pornography. But I didn't say that, but I basically said I'm trying to fast forward it. And he was like, oh, do you watch smut often? I'm like, no. I'm like, I was watching this psychological thriller because I like to, because when I'm at home, I was watching the premise, but at this time I was just watching the scenes for the overlay. And I was telling him that I like watching psychological thrillers because I like understanding the mind of an individual that engages in violent behavior because of my background in forensic psychology. I really enjoy like 48 Hours. That's one of my favorite Like, I watch it for a certain reason, not for what you're thinking. So in his mind, he's already getting excited and stuff, and I'm like, you need to relax, because that's not what's going on here. So as you can see, the ambiance is very laid back. It's not like ultra professional, because it can get really casual when guests are just sitting and talking to you. And then I started to get like a flurry of calls, and then guests were coming in and stuff, and he was still sitting there. And I was asking him like, can you like head to your room? I want to be rude. He was like, well, can I come back? I was like, if I'm not still busy, possibly. Because I hadn't talked to like a male in a long time, like in person. Like, I do indulge in dating apps, and I have like had like long-term relationships from dating apps, but it had been a while since I had engaged one-on-one in person with the male. So I was just enjoying talking to him to a certain extent, but I wasn't thinking anything lustful or sexual, because I wasn't even on that time, because I'm actually celibate, and I've been celibate for quite some time. And I told him that. I told him I've been celibate, because I don't know, I think he said something. I said I've been single and celibate. So, because he asked me if I had a boyfriend, because he didn't want to be inappropriate and like talking to me in a certain way. And then when I told him I was single and celibate, he was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, like you're like the highlight of my trip and stuff. And I was like, oh, that was kind of sweet. That was kind of sweet to say. Thank you, that's sweet. And he actually was asking like what's my ethnicity, and he actually thought I was from Fiji, but I am African American, and I'm mixed with like white Cherokee, Indian, Italian, and German, but I'm predominantly African American. So I thought that was really interesting. Before he left, he actually asked for my number, because I told him I'm gonna be like busy for probably the remainder of the evening, so I can't really just sit here and converse with you for any longer, like for this long duration of time. I obliged, and I provided him with my number, and he immediately like sent me like a video or like a picture, First 48 on his TV. So he's basically like kind of trying to lure me in, because at least he did listen, you know, to what I liked, and he was trying to, you know, see. So he's like on the borderline of being a predator, but kind of still, because I never told him. I told him I'm celibate. I never gave him any inclination I was attracted to him, and, you know, to have intimate relations with him. I just was enjoying speaking with him. But I can see how that could cross the line, and a man could assume like, okay, she's interested in me, she's ready to open her legs. But not every woman is ready to open her legs immediately. I don't know how hard that is to comprehend. I ended up having some issues on the property with some guests. Like, some guests actually got stranded on the balcony because they locked themselves on the balcony, and they also just happened to lock their room from the inside. Like, there's a lock on the inside that only the guests can unlock. So it was just a huge hassle. I had to go get a ladder. Luckily, they were like on the second floor, so I was able to grab a ladder. It was a huge ladder. The ladder was so tall. I was trying to think of like a comparison point. I don't know how. I'm 4 feet 11. It had to be about 12 feet, and it was so heavy, and it was so dirty. And I almost broke my nails, but I didn't. But I had to go and like rescue them from the balcony, and they were like they were males, but they were effeminate, and they were like really prissy, and they didn't want to get down the ladder, but that was the only way for them to get down. And then we ended up having to like open the window from the outside to get it. It was just a lot going on that evening, so I couldn't really like text him back and forth, and he didn't have time to come back into the office or anything to like converse with me. But I was telling him what was going on, like I'm really busy, because he was like, well, basically he was basically saying like, can you come to my room, like you want to come over tonight? And I'm like, no, I know you asked me for a drink earlier, and I said no, because like I have to work late, and I have to get up early, and I have a long drive home, and I'm gonna be extremely tired, like. And anyway, no. So I was telling him, no, I can't do that. And he was like, are you sure? I'm really excited. I'm so excited. I'm like, excited about what? I never gave you any inclination I was coming into your room, let alone pulling down my undergarments and opening my legs. Are you serious? I never said that. He had sent me like another picture of the first 48. Basically like, are you sure you don't want to watch the first 48 and come in here with me? And then he was sending like a link to some ambient music. Like he was actually trying to like send stuff that I like, but I was not interested. Like you didn't even like offer me, you didn't, because when he came back from the pier, he was also saying how stuff was expensive and he got himself some tacos and something else. I'm like, you didn't even bring me back like a coffee or a pizza, but you are expecting that I'm going to open my legs for you. Like, I don't understand why you're not offering me something, but yet entitled and expecting me to do something with you that's of an intimate nature. And then at the end, when I was like, oh, I can't come, like I said it like multiple times. Usually I don't even go back and forth with people, but I don't know what kind of time I was on that evening. Usually I'm like, I say it one time or not at all, and I block or move on. But I didn't do that. It was weird. I was out of character. But he was like, well, you know, this is going to be my last night here. I have to go back to South Carolina. I'm like, what does that have to do with me? Is that a threat? Like, you know, that scarcity tactic, like, this is your last night, you have to, like, I remember I was talking to one guy and he was like only in town for like 2 weeks or something, and he was like, you need to seize today, carpe diem, like, could be the last time. You can never get a chance with me, you can never get a chance with the king, are you serious? And I'm like, I don't need to be rushed, I'm not ready to do that. So flee, king. You know, like, I don't need to be pressured, and I already know you're already leaving. You already told me that. You don't need to reiterate that to me as a scare tactic for me to open up my legs. Are you kidding? That's not gonna work out. In any event, he ended it a bit respectably after I said it for like the umpteenth time that I'm not going to be proceeding with entering your suite because it's been a long day and I'm busy and I'm not gonna do that. And then he finally was like, okay, I understand, have a good night. And then I didn't block him, actually. I just never heard from him again. So that was that. Now let's go on to the second predator. The next predator, I actually know his full name. His name is Chadwick Conover. Conover? Con man.
Chad Conover. Chadwick. How do you say that? Kata. Sorry, that's his real name. He's a local environmentalist, born and raised here, cares. He reached out to me very early on and said, hey, what can I do?
Getting over, if you know what I mean. But I believe he was in his like early to mid 40s. He had very high energy. He was still like very laid back, but still like had an underlying essence of being charismatic. But I think that's like his lure to get people to do what he wants in like a non-direct or abrasive way. His energy was like a familiar spirit. Like I've felt that kind of spirit umpteenth times over. And I immediately thought he was handsome because he was like literally just my type. Like I like older, like looking refined men with a youthful energy, like high vitality, if you will. But he sat down like immediately and was like, let's make a deal. It was like interesting and intriguing with his approach. So he asked me to actually see the room before he booked, which is something I hadn't had anyone ask before. But of course I obliged. I was wearing like all red that day. I looked like a superwoman. I had on like an all red business suit, and it was like red shoes, red top, red blazer, and red pants, red slacks. Just a little context there. So I was showing him the room, and he immediately like sat down. Like you can tell that he's someone who claims his territory, and he's like dominant in that way. So he like literally sat down, and I was still standing up. So he was like, if he looked up, he was like gazing at me, but he was sitting down and I was standing up. So it was like eye to eye, and he was like, this is the one. And I'm like, okay, cool. Okay. Are you talking about me or the room or both? So, but I like dominant energy like that. I like stuff like that. But not like with the other stuff that I'm gonna tell you about, because he was like he had underlying lies that were the foundation of his essence, and I didn't like that. But I like dominant energy with the right kind of man, like not like toxic domination or like controlling domination or like unwarranted domination. I don't like that. But I mean, that is a part of masculinity. I like, you know, when someone knows what they want and is direct. I like that. He was like, this is the one. So he wanted to move forward. He solidified it via hotel tonight, and I checked him in and gave him his key, so he booked through the third party. But he ended up coming back to the office, and he was saying thank you for booking. You know, I didn't really book him, he did it himself. He was just saying thank you. I think he just wanted to talk to me. He was just saying thank you. He was saying that I had like really good energy and I was really charismatic, and I'm like, charismatic? I'm like, I have good customer service, and I'm like caring and present, but I don't think I'm charismatic, because sometimes charismatic can come off like manipulative, like you're trying to win someone over. Like, I'm not really charismatic. I'm not, but I do have positive energy. So basically he was saying that I went the extra mile to help him, but I didn't really do anything, so I don't know what he was saying. But I guess because I'm always accommodating, I'm not sure. But he was saying that I had good energy and everything, and I was like, so do you have really great energy. And he was like, yeah, because he was telling me that he has like, his home is like an Airbnb. He, you know, utilizes it as an Airbnb, and he rents it out ever so often, and then he goes on staycations in different areas. And he was recently in Laguna Beach, and he actually looked like this guy that was courting me. And it wasn't just his look, his energy was, like I said, a familiar spirit. Like it was almost like deja vu. It was interesting, but he was yeah, he was a little more attractive than the guy that was courting me. So when he said Laguna Beach, I was like, oh, actually, you remind me of a male that took me on a date. Like, he took me to like this fancy steak dinner in Laguna Beach. I was telling him he reminded me of him, like a guy that I used to date. So basically, I was implying that I was attracted to him because I had went out and was courted by a man that looked like him and embodied his same energy. So that already implies that attraction is there for me. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And then he like went off to do whatever he was doing. Like, he had so much high energy that he was like high on the degree of spontaneity. Like, on the spectrum, he was spontaneous. So he was like always hopping around doing something. So he was off to do whatever he was gonna do. And so I still just thought that was that. But then I was about to leave for the evening. It was pitch dark. And his room was right near the office. I think he said he loved that room because like it was like there's no surveillance cameras over there, and like he had a really big truck, and he was actually in the same exact room that the other predator was in, which was right near the office, as I stated. And his big truck like obscured the entryway of his suite. So I think that's why he liked it. Like, he seems like an inconspicuous kind of being in that way. My car was parked adjacent to his room, like at a cornered angle. At a slanted angle. And so I was in my car about to pull off. I was like, I don't know, looking at my phone or something, but I felt something out of my periphery. I didn't see anything because it was pitch dark and his vehicle was pitch dark, so I didn't see anything, but I felt something. But I initially didn't acknowledge it, because when I feel stuff, I don't initially acknowledge it, because usually if someone's like staring at you or standing there, like they want your attention, and I don't like giving anything or anyone my attention when I know that's what you're trying to make me do. So I didn't want to, but then somebody had said something, and then I was like, oh, maybe I guess needs something, because I am at work. I'm off the clock, but I am at work. But I ended up looking over, and it was him. I couldn't hear him though, so I thought maybe he needed the Wi-Fi code, just like the other one. It's like their segue to get in there where they fit in. He was saying something. I couldn't quite decipher what he was saying. So I opened the door, and I was like a little bit thrown off because he was naked. Like, he had came in the office earlier when he said thank you, and he had no shirt on and he had no shorts, but we're near the beach, so that's like, it's not customary, because literally many people actually don't do that. Not like when they come into an office space. I've only seen literally one other person do that. Like, literally have no shirt on and just like, but it's usually ones with builds that are aesthetically nice, so they're like confident and stuff. So I already saw him with his shirt off. That wasn't too jarring, but at this point he literally only had a towel on it, and his third leg was like kind of visible, and he was like soaking wet, and everything was just out on display. Even though it was pitch dark, I could see him clearly because there was like a light shining from his room. He came over to me And I was like, oh, do you need anything? I just kind of dismissed his nakedness. And I was like, do you need anything? And he was like, how much do you get paid as a property manager? So yeah, I told him I make a decent amount, but I can always make more, and that I have other streams of income. And he was saying, well, what if I can give you what you make in a night in 30 minutes? And I said, eventually I will be making that when I build my own property and when I'm working for myself. So I don't need to get it from you. Okay, mister? I don't need that. I'm not in agreement with that type of proposition. So no, thank you. I get where you're coming from, but no. And he was saying, well, you're gonna need to engage in unconventional means if you want to actually elevate and go to the next level. And I was like, I understand where you're coming from, but no, I'm not gonna have to like engage in things that subvert my integrity. Maybe unconventional, but I don't have to listen to you and what you unconventionally wish for me to do so that I can reach the next level. And like basically his domineering energy was starting to get like a bit like on the controlling narcissistic side. And I don't know what kind of entity he thought he was dealing with, but I'm very much present and aware of the way in which people are attempting to draw me in or like lure me or deceive me. So I wanted to constantly make it known that I hear what you're saying, but I'm not in agreement with it. But thank you for your advice. So no, that's not gonna work. So I was basically saying that yeah, I want to eventually build my own property, and he was like, that's pretty impressive. So if you're gonna build it yourself, see, this is one of those like cerebral higher level narcissists. He's not to the highest degree, but he's one of those that are up there that lure in a lot of women because he's persistent and he's really present. Like he's gathering information to consistently try to move forward with his desire, which is a masculine trait, and I like that. But I'm going to move forward if I desire to move forward, and it's not going to be because you manipulated me into doing so. So that's what I was, continually reiterating to him. And I'm more than sure he respected that, because I can't even imagine how many women he has gotten over on, to say the least. I can't even imagine. And that's why he felt like a familiar spirit, because I've come into contact with so many manipulative, deceptive men who have attempted, keyword, attempted to manipulate me and deceive me. But always I come with the comebacks so that they know that I see and I hear loud and clear what they are attempting to do. And I'm standing my ground throughout it all. So it creates a very combative experience. I've never been like emotionally, verbally, or physically abused, but it's mainly like passive, emotional, subtle attempts at manipulation and attempts to like override my dominance. And I'm only dominant because I'm protecting myself, because I can sense that they are trying to dominate over me in a manipulative and or deceptive way. So in any event, he was saying you must have good hands if you're going to build it yourself. And I'm like, oh, that's very funny. I'm going to get an architect to build it, but I'm going to design it. Like, how hard is that to understand? And he was saying, he was like, oh, well, you must have good hands, like if you're going to build a spa, because he was like trying to act like, I'm like, I don't do massages. It's going to be amenity based. Like all these men with their assumptions, and their assumptions they think are going to lead them to the deceptive outcome that they desire, and it's not gonna work with me. Okay, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be doing no massages, definitely not me, and I don't want anyone massaging anyone in my facility. It's amenity based. But I can't deny I'm a healer and I have the healing touch, so I'm in agreement with that. So then he was like, oh, so you're a healer, and you have a healing touch. And he was like, and then he invited me into his room. Now, I know you all would think I would not go into the room, but I was attracted to his dominance and his persistence. I can't lie. And when I would have my comebacks of standing my ground, he didn't come back at me in a combative or demeaning or volatile oppositional way. So I was still I was a little bit attracted to him. Okay, I was still a little bit attracted. So, and I'm never attracted to anyone. So that's the point. I'm literally, it's so rare that I'm attracted to anyone on this earth. So I was like considering it, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe. But then he was like, well, you know, well, he didn't say that first. He was like, yeah, because you have such like feminine energy, and like you're really like soft, and like even though I was like standing up for myself, even though I stand up for myself and I'm dominant, I still come at it in like a soft, borderline sensual way, because I come like from a wholehearted place. I'm not trying to be like overly masculine or anything like that. I know I'm a woman. So I was like soaking it all in, because he was like, yeah, you're feminine, and you're he said charming, and you're like sweet, and there's no greater energy than the feminine energy. He was like, I really value feminine energy. And I was like, well, I really value dominant male energy, like clean dominant male energy. And usually I have instincts for these things. Like I usually can like sense if someone's like being deceptive, but I don't know, I was literally just going with the flow, because I'm never attracted. But still, I know I can solidify my boundaries with the quickness, like click, like with the quickness. So it doesn't mean just because I agree to enter a space with you doesn't mean I have to comply with everything you're saying, okay? If I don't feel right in doing so. After he said he values feminine energy, and I was saying I value you know, male energy, I don't know, I was like getting more sold with just with like moving forward to continue speaking with him, not like to have sex with him or anything. But obviously if I'm entering into a hotel room, I can expect a man to like possibly do something of the sort, but I still have the right to say no, okay? And there was no like surveillance cameras around there or anything. And like I said, his truck like really, I made it an inconspicuous space. So I ended up going in there, and he was like, oh, can you put my phone on the charger? He was like going to the restroom, and he was like, can you put my phone on the charger and something, he on the charger and something else. And he was like, yeah, this is you working for me. I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, no, I'm not working for you. I'm just putting the phone in the charger because this is what I'm doing. I said, I'm in here because I energetically feel intrigued and interested enough to be in here. I'm not working for you. He was like, okay, calm down. I'm like, okay. And then he basically was telling me that he had prostate issues. Like after he came out of the bathroom, he was literally like nude, like on his knees. He was having like pain or something in his prostate area or something. So he was like trying to get in a good position to relieve the pain. And so I ended up moving forward with massaging him, because he asked for a massage, and he had like coconut oil or shea butter oil or something like that. And I was telling him that I used to have like kidney issues and sometimes back spasms. So I mean, not directly related to prostate issues, but I can relate to like lower back pain and stuff like that. So I was massaging him and stuff, and he was like, oh, I can't believe you're actually massaging me, like this feels so good. And I was like, yeah, I don't mind massaging like a hardworking man and offering my feminine flow into his masculine solidified space. And we were just talking about like race issues in the world, and I was telling him like I want to move from California to like somewhere else, potentially Florida. I don't think I want to move to Florida anymore. Wow, what are they doing? I was telling him I don't want to move to like Miami Beach or like, oh wow, it was a dream. He's gonna do that in real life. I was telling him I don't want to move to like the touristy hot spots. I want to move to like an area where there's older, settled people. Kind of like, because I used to watch the Golden Girls all the time. I love the Golden Girls, but in like a settled space with like older people, everyone's like quiet, content, and to themselves. Like I don't like all that energy, all that extra nonsense. I don't like it. Unless I feel like dealing with it, then I can go towards it for like a spell and then leave whenever I feel like it. But I will not be surrounded by all that energy. So he was like, yeah, they would love you there. He was like, especially the Caucasian people, they would bend over backwards for you. I'm like, why would they bend over backwards for me? I'm just another human being. They were like, yeah. He was like, yeah, because African American people that like carry themselves a certain way, they would definitely like bend over backwards for you. I'm like, I don't need no one to bend over backwards for me. Like, just treat me like a human being with respect and decency. Like, I don't need all that. And then he was telling me when he was in Beverly Hills, he was like trying on some things in like a high-end store. I forget the name. I don't know. A Gucci store, Dior. I don't know. And it was like not a window. Window, yeah. There was a window and like people could see you trying it on. It seems like he wanted people to see, because if I'm trying stuff on, I'm going to the freaking, like if I'm getting something tailored or something, I want privacy. I don't need to be seen. Anyway, he said there were some African American males walking by and they saw him trying on stuff and he had his shirt off, and then the men were like, I guess like bucking. I don't know if that's what you call it. Like they were like showing their bravado, and they were basically trying to start an altercation with him. I guess it was like a territorial thing. And he was like, yeah, that happens to me often. And what's weird is that the other guy that took me on a date in Laguna Beach, he was also really confrontational and territorial, but it was within his own race. So Caucasian against Caucasian, but then he was subversively envious of minorities. It was the strangest thing. Like he was battling with some serious self-hate issues. So it was interesting. So he was going on and on about that, because usually when I'm in the space with a male, they just, you know, flow. They just let it flow, let it go. And I just, you know, listen and empathize, and just not even fully empathize. I like to understand why someone thinks how they think and why they are who they are. So I'm like literally listening to understand. I'm not listening to gauge information to like retaliate or like do something against someone. I never do stuff like that. So I was just listening and everything. And then he said he needed to go to the restroom. He had to go to the restroom a couple times, but he went to the restroom one last time. So he came back from the bathroom, and then I had on my music, which was ambient music, like trance kind of music. So I was listening to that the duration of the time, and then he wanted me to change it, and he asked me to type in something, and it was some like Jamaican music. I'm like, you don't have to appeal to my African American side. Like, just treat me like a human being. Like, it's not gonna work. Because he's not the first guy that's done that. I remember I was on a date. I was on a boat, literally, like they are, with like a mathematician. He was getting his PhD in math, supposedly. I don't know, because he said some other lies, so I don't know what to believe with him. And he was putting on some music, and it was some like Jamaican, I'm like, music. I'm like, no. And then he was like, oh, that's not the one. And he got his phone and he was typing it in. And he was like, oh, well, I have my phone. Can I have your number? And we were in a decent space. I mean, there was some contention and some off-putting things, but I'm like, if I don't like, because I'm never attracted to someone, so I'm like, I'm kind of attracted, so let me just see where this goes, because usually I don't feel anything. So I gave him my number, but then he immediately ruined everything, or everything just went to the other end of the spectrum, which was that of disappointment. And he, after he solidified the music selection, he laid on the bed completely nude, and he was like, yeah, why don't you come and provide me with fellatio and do it to me better than my wife does. I mean, I know massages can be foreplay, but second of all, why did you have to disclose that about your wife? Third of all, why are you assuming that I'm just a hotel amenity to open my mouth and let you in, especially after you just disclosed this information about that you're married? And I had already actually told him that I was celibate, like when we were outside talking before I entered his suite. And he was like, oh, that makes sense. I didn't deem you as the, you know, type to be overly sexual. He said he deemed me to be like actually selective. and were fined. And I was like, that's accurate. See, he was saying things that was like on point, and they were sincere and genuine. Like, the certain narcissists will mix like sincerity with lies with ease. It's seamless. The sincerity and the lies are intertwined seamlessly to where you own it. But I don't regret it, because I move forward with stuff because I want to move forward with stuff. If I didn't want to, I wouldn't have. So there's nothing for me to regret. So it is what it is. But it's just, you know, you live and you experience. So as soon as he said that, I immediately just left the premises, because I'm like, I'm not about to do that to a married man. So after I left, I assumed that was that. I couldn't block him or anything because I didn't have his number, because he didn't reach out to me, because he had my number. But the next day, the maids were trying to clean his room, because he was supposed to have been checked out, because he didn't solidify a reservation for the next day. So like after 12 p.m. it's time to get out, young man. So I had the master key, because I had been knocking and he wasn't answering. The maids had been knocking, he wasn't answering. And he likes to like be domineering and like do his own thing and like not respect authority, which I mean I kind of like, but you already disrespected me, so you're not going to continue to disrespect me. That's not going to happen. So I wanted him out, honestly. So I was getting more intel from the maids, and they were saying, yeah, we saw him leave at like 10 a.m. He was leaving with a lady. I'm like, are you serious? So after we were, you know, I was massaging him, he probably like, oh, she's not gonna go down on me. So I need to bring in, I don't know if it was his wife or a prostitute. Honestly, with him, I don't know. I have no idea who it was. It was none of my business at this point, and thank God I did not open up to him in that intimate way. So after getting that intel, I was like, yeah, he really gotta go. He got to go. But I can't control it if someone books again and they stay. I mean, I could have complained to the owner. I probably couldn't, because he seems like he's into some kind of sexual deviancy. Like, he seems like he would be in on like some kind of orgy. Like, so I don't know if he would even care like about my complaints. He'd probably like, oh, I want to have an orgy with her. Like, I don't know. Like, the mentality of some people here is really like mind-blowing. Like, what's normal to them is like off the Richter scale to me. I'm like, wow. It was like after 12 p.m. at this point, and so I opted to, because we didn't have a phone number on file for him. He didn't put his real name at first. He just put his middle name, which was Kata. So I didn't have any contextual information or no information to reach him. So I opened the door with the master key, and there was like pornography playing, and there was condoms, open condoms. And I didn't mention, anyway, I'm not gonna mention, that's embarrassing. I'm not gonna mention that. It's about his manly setup. I'll just keep it like that. Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out like, how could he please someone? Anyway, okay. So and I'm like, whoa, what kind of debauchery was going on in here? This is insane. I couldn't move his items because he had valuables in there on purpose. He left his vehicle parked out front. So I guess he left on his bike because he brought a bike there. And he left his iPad, his wallet, with all of his cards in there. And I already knew they were in there because it was like a half open. I didn't touch anything. And I didn't tell you guys, like at the end when I was about to leave, he was like, oh, well, do you have PayPal? I can send you some money for giving me the massage. And I'm like, I don't want your money. Like, I came in here to just enjoy your company because I'm never attracted to anyone, and I enjoy your masculine energy. Like, I don't need your money. I didn't do this to come in here to get no money. Okay. And also, I don't want your money because men like that, they will give you money because they want that power dynamic. They're like, okay, I rule over you, you need this from me. Like, they create this need and this unbalanced power dynamic, and I have authority over what I do, when I do it, why I do it, why I don't do it, and you know, everything else in between, and I don't need that. So anyway, he ended up coming in like 12:15 or something, and I was gonna give him peace of my mind because I'm like, we saw the pornography, we saw this, we saw that, but I just keep it professional and keep it cute because I don't need to go there because we're not like, there's nothing between us, so that's none of my business. I'm just taking note, mental notes, palling up, young man. So I was like, yeah, it's late. Like, you need to get out. We have someone coming into that room. You need to leave. And he was like, oh, well, can I pay cash? I want to, no, not pay cash. This was another day he paid cash. After today, he still was staying there. And I was working every day. So he was like, oh, I'll just give you my card, but I have to go. I'm like, what? He was like always in a rush and always like hopping around. Like, I like high energy. I like men with high vitality. I don't know if I like high energy men that just cannot sit down, because then that means you always have to be doing something, and it's like an addiction. It's like a dopamine addiction, adrenaline addiction, adrenaline junkie. I think that's what he is. And so I like reserved, like kind of calm men that will do spontaneous things every so often. But if that's how you get off in life, that's not gonna work. That's not stable enough for me. So he was like, oh, I have to go, but here's my card. Can you just like do it for me? And I'm like, I mean, I'm extremely accommodating. I'm always accommodating to my guests if I can figure something out, because I just have a brain for solutions. And so it's really nothing to me. We were extremely booked that day. So what I did was ended up, someone was actually supposed to be checking into his room. But you know, check-in is not till 3 p.m. So I just swapped their room so he can stay there. And I don't have to deal with him, so I don't care. So I charged his card, and he left his card with me. It's like, there's like a level of trust, but then there's also a level of negligence. Why are you leaving your card with someone you don't know? And where's the money you said you were gonna give me? Like, I know the principle is I don't want it and I'm not gonna take it, but the principle is, why are you not insistent on giving unto me? I don't understand that. Because if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it regardless of if you don't want it or not. Because that's what I said I was gonna do. Yet another negative. Like, you're not a man of your word, and I don't like that. He ran off into the sunset. I didn't want to see him, so I ended up putting his card in a secured envelope with like an official stamp of our hotel. Everything is pretty informal there. I kind of formal everything up, honestly, because I'm the only one on the premises and I can do as I please. And the property owner and the general manager don't care about that property or the guests there. So I put his credit card in a secured envelope and put it underneath his suite door, all the way under, so no one can like get in or do anything or take it. It was already canceled though, because I was trying to process his incidental fee and it was not going through. Like, he's just all over the place. I think he canceled it on purpose. I just don't know what he has going on. Maybe he has limited money because he's moving it around for the Airbnb. I don't know. And another thing, he gave me his card too, not just out of being negligent. He wanted to have a reason to come back and see me, because he didn't know I knew all this information, other than the fact that, you know, I walked out after he said he had a wife. But clearly he don't care, because he still wanted to see me to a certain extent. Oh, because actually when he left his card, he was like, oh, I have to go. And then he was like, I'm gonna come back and get it, and I want to see you. I want to see you later or something. I'm like, I'm gonna be busy. I don't think so. So I forgot that part. So I left his card under there, and I left for the night. But I noticed he had his door like cracked open so he could see when I was leaving, because he didn't know my hours, because he didn't get into detail. But he already gave him his card back, so I wasn't gonna like, it wasn't mandatory for me to correspond with him. I just drove off into the sunset and left. And then the next day, he wanted to stay again, and it was in the evening, and he was giving me cash for it. For the room, and he was like, oh, can I see you tonight? I didn't see you the other night. I'm like, you're not gonna see me again. No, I'm not interested in that way. I didn't bring up his wife or none of that, none of the incident. I'm just like, no, thank you, not interested. And he was like, okay, so I see you tonight. He was like completely ignoring what I was saying, just kind of like, I wouldn't call it delusional, because he knew for darn sure what I was saying. He just is insistent about what he wants. Like, no, that's not gonna happen. And so yet again, when I was leaving, he had his door cracked open, and he's like, oh, come in. And I just drove off. I'm like, are you serious? No. And he had not reached out to me via text at all. And so the next day, he was already booked for consecutive days. So it wasn't mandatory that I interact with him for an extended stay. However, I knew that I would see him because I could sense that I was still on his radar, with him cracking his door, leaving it open, waving me in, and things of the sort. Granted, he never called, he never texted me to solidify anything substantial, so everything was supposedly supposed to transpire impromptu, spontaneously, and organically. But after you informed me that you were married and propositioned me for fellatio prior to informing me that you were married, just the whole way that he went about it, the delivery was indecorous, to say the least. The decorum was low. And so his vehicle was still in front of the room, but he wasn't in there, so I assumed that he went off on his bike somewhere. And it had been a couple hours into my shift and I hadn't seen nor heard from him. Granted, he never texted me, he had my number, he never called me to solidify anything substantial for us to engage in person, like no solidified date outside of the premises, no solidified time for me to meet him at his suite, which I would not do after his indecorous proposition anyway. But everything is super spontaneous, and organic is nice. However, I like solidified plans. And I mean, you're not even thinking of me enough to incorporate me into your plans. You don't care about me, and therefore I do not care about you. And I never would, because he's married, so that's irrelevant. But it's all compounding into nothingness. So I knew I would see him, I just didn't know when. And I was leaving the office to tend to another guest on the opposite side of the property. And as I was locking the door, out of my periphery, I saw someone on a bike. It was very brief. I hadn't seen him without a shirt since our first interaction when he was initially deciding to book with our hotel. So after he booked with our hotel, I always saw him without a shirt on. So I kind of didn't know if it was him. It was really out of my periphery. I didn't see any details of the human being that I was seeing in my periphery. But I don't know, I caught a whiff of his energy, like an energetic inkling, if you will. I was like, oh, that's him. Because I didn't feel like interacting with him. I'm not interested in that way anymore. When I was locking the door and I got a whiff of his energy, I kind of got thrown off. And then I was like, oh, that's probably not him. That's probably some kid on a bike. And then I forgot I had left something that I needed for the guests. So I went back in. And then by the time I came back out, I was locking the door. And then I felt some arms literally like around my person, like hugging me from the back. Unwarranted, unapproved physical touch that I did not ask for, and then I quite frankly did not want, considering what you disclosed to me. And I immediately turned around and I was like, can you like get off of me? Like I basically like backed him off of me, because we're not cool like that. You're married. Like, what are you thinking? I'm just like some individual for you to touch at your leisure? I'm not understanding this at all, because that behavior right there shows me that he gets away with 95% of the deceptive, manipulative behavior that he engages in. Because why do you think you're entitled to touch me after what you just said? I mean, granted, I didn't say, oh my gosh, how dare you, you're married. I mean, he already knows all that. That's why I left the premises. So what's understood doesn't have to be stated. He knows what's up. So that's why I'm like, what are you doing? Like basically like back up off me, young man. And then he actually had a young man with him. Like I said, Conover was like in his mid to late 40s. And he had this younger boy with him. He looked like he had to be in his late teens, early 20s. He could have been mid 20s, but he looked so young, like he had a baby face. And he is extremely entitled. I can just tell by his aura. just very rude, no respect, no boundaries, entitled, all the things that I'm against. Yeah, after I told him, you know, kind of like back up off me, I had the master keys in my hand, which I had forgot initially. And the young boy attempted to grab the master keys out of my hand and said, "I'll take those." And I'm like, "No, you will not, sir." Like, I just looked him dead in his face and was like, "No, you will not, sir." And I call people sir when I'm being like, I say sir a lot. Just, I don't know, maybe it's a Midwestern thing, maybe it's a manners thing. I say miss, ma'am, sir, please, and thank you to nearly everyone, literally everyone. And I don't really care about your age. I just say that. And some younger people, like, they don't take offense, but they're like off put. They're like, "You do realize I'm young, why are you calling me sir?" But I like when people call me ma'am and miss. It's a certain level of like respect, and I don't know, it's like respect / endearing. It depends on the tone and how it comes out and everything. But anyway, that's not relevant. But I was saying in this tone that like you need to act like a sir. Like, you need to act more respectful. What person on earth is going to give you the master key to all of the hotel? I never even met you. I don't know you. So that's how I know he just be running rampant through Malibu, through LA, through wherever he is. Yeah, that was a very strange encounter. And then even after that, the Kata Conover guy was saying to me, "Okay, I'll see you later." I'm like, "No, you won't see me later." And then he just ran off. It's like he acts very immature, okay? Like, it's a fine line between like being masculine but still being spontaneous and taking risks and stuff. But I like calculated risks, and I don't like someone that's just completely all over the place 24/7. I mean, it's great that you have that much freedom in your life and you're carefree. That is cool. I hope he has a great life. It just will never be with me. Like, I will never want a male entity in my life that acts like that. That is just too all over the place. But then the next day, I wasn't on site. The actual general manager was going to be on site for the next 2 or 3 days because he had like issues with the computer system, with the internet, with the gas bill, with the pool not being cleaned, with so many things that he had to catch up on. So he was going to be there, not me. And my general manager is obviously not as accommodating and kind as me. Not obviously, but he's not. And I guess he wanted to stay another night in the room, but someone was already booked for that room, so the general manager was not going to accommodate him, and he would have to pay more, because I was actually giving him like a deal on the room, just like I do with everyone. If I can give them a deal, I will, because it's a luxury, but it's not up to my standard of what luxury is, and I don't think it's worth that amount that they're charging. I really don't. So when I can give a discount or figure something out, like give a complimentary upgrade or like finagle some things around to make it make sense, I will. And that's for everyone. I don't really discriminate. And even if I'm feeling I don't need to feel like vindictive or slighted because we're not like together. That's just how he acts as a person, so that has nothing to do with me, because I don't get emotionally invested or anything like that at all. It's just another experience to me, but I'm just accommodating in general. So I guess the manager wasn't being accommodating, so then he actually reached out to me and he said, I'll put the text so you can view it. And he was saying, "Good morning, Serenity," because I told him my name was Serenity, my alias. "Will you be working today?" And I was basically telling him, no, I won't be on the premises, but I wish him the very best of luck finding alternative suitable accommodations. And I never heard back, but I did some research since I had his full name, and I found out that he's like some kind of philanthropist and environmentalist that donates to environmental causes in Malibu. I mean, to other people that might seem like something that's commendable, but I know the down low. Like, I know that he's like, I don't know, he's cheating on his wife, he's attempting to pick up women, having extramarital affairs. I'm not sure if they have an open relationship. That's on them. Maybe he's not being deceptive. I don't know. That's on them. But I know I'm not getting involved with them. But to everybody else, he may seem like, oh my God, he's a philanthropist. He's so giving and so this and that. He didn't give any money to me because he was actually saying, yeah, I typically get like massages from like professionals or something. And he was like, I pay them really good. I'm like, you didn't pay me anything. I don't care if I did not insist on taking the money. Men that are not of their word, no. No. You pay them good? Where's the money? And now I'm trying to see, do you have any money? I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Something's not adding up. Okay. So that's pretty much the end of that. After I did my research and found that I'm like, him being a philanthropist doesn't elevate my perception of him in any way. Because I'm pretty sure people that donate, like, they get to write it off and stuff. So is it really charitable? I mean, it's charitable to an extent, but is it charitable to bolster your character profile? But you're not really of high character and high caliber, so no one cares.
But even Freemasons do philanthropic work, and their doctrine at the root of it, once you get to that 33rd degree, but really even before you get to that degree, you find out that you're serving Lucifer. But the outside of it is, you know, philanthropic works and, you know, community service and all this different types of stuff. And this is why I say all these things are in our everyday community. There are Masons walking around, Eastern Stars walking around, people who are covenanted to Lucifer, and they're everyday people. They smile in your face, they say hello, you know, they might be of service, but in what way and who is servicing your service? Who is the master of your service?
Next predator